The Ministry of Health will no longer release data on daily COVID-19 numbers separately every afternoon in order to reduce the fear factor about fresh infections, which have been spiking amid the current Omicron wave. Health Minister Khairy Jamaluddin explained today that the numbers will instead be announced a day later, along with data on bed utilization rates, usage of intensive care units, and the number of patients requiring respiratory assistance. Khairy said the move would enable members of the public to get a clearer picture of the situation. It is effective tomorrow, with Friday's daily numbers to be announced on Saturday morning. Yesterday, Malaysia reported a new record high of 27,831 fresh infections, though only about 0.3% or 97 cases were placed under categories 3, 4 and 5. The number of hospitalisations for COVID-19 patients have also increased, up by 42% in the last 7 days, as the number of new cases rose by 109%. Khairy explained that this increase in the number of patients being hospitalised is due to preemptive measures, with some patients being warded despite showing none to little symptoms and falling under categories 1 and 2. These include patients who may have comorbidities or they may live in homes that are deemed unsuitable for self-quarantine. Khairy said a new protocol for close contacts of COVID-19 positive patients will also be announced next week, noting the impacts of self-isolation on work processes and the economy. He said currently, asymptomatic healthcare workers who are close contacts no longer need to be quarantined. Instead, they undergo tests for the virus on certain days. Pharmaniaga says fourth quarter FY21 net profit stood at 85.48 million ringgit, compared with a net loss of 6.33 million a year ago. This was thanks to higher revenue, which grew 12.16% to 711.72 million ringgit, mainly due to positive growth across its concession, non-concession and Indonesian businesses. On a quarter-on-quarter basis, the pharma player's net profit was 71.52% higher, while revenue shrank from 2.13 billion ringgit. It declared its fourth interim dividend of 5 cents per share. For the full year, earnings surged to 172.15 million ringgit from just 27.49 million ringgit in the previous year, underpinned by higher contributions from the logistics and distribution and manufacturing divisions. Top line jumped 76.7% to 4.82 billion ringgit, largely due to the sales of Sinovac COVID-19 vaccines. Moving forward, the group says it aims to maintain the growth momentum of its consumer healthcare segment and achieve double-digit growth in FY22 by ramping up marketing for its consumer healthcare products. Shares in Pharmaniaga finished 1.33% higher at 76 cents, valuing the group at 995.57 million ringgit. Serba Dynamic Holdings has filed a notice of appeal at the KL High Court to invalidate a decision by Judicial Commissioner Wan Muhammad Amin Wan Yahya. The order requires the engineering services provider to comply with Bursa Malaysia's instruction to make public the fact-finding updates on a special independent review by EY Consulting on Serba Dynamic's financials. A source familiar with the matter told theedgemarkets.com that the court has received the notice of appeal. The bourse regulator and operator had last November started legal action against Serba Dynamic after it failed to comply with a directive requiring it to disclose the material findings of EY Consulting's fact-finding update. At the High Court last Monday, Wan Muhammad Amin ordered Serba Dynamic to make a public announcement on the fact-finding update as required by Bursa. Earlier this week, the Judicial Commissioner rejected the company's application for a stay of the order. He said there were no special circumstances to warrant the stay and dismissed the application with 5,000 ringgit costs. Disgraced ex-banker Tim Leisner testified today that senior executives at Goldman Sachs Group knew Loh Teck Joe was involved in transactions related to 1MDB. Leisner took the stand as the US government's key witness in the federal bribery trial of his former subordinate Roger Ng. According to a Bloomberg report, Leisner told jurors in a Brooklyn, New York courtroom that he, Ng, and their colleagues knew that Joe Low was the key decision maker, and so they had to include the Penang-born businessman in all major aspects of the lucrative 1MDB deals. And he said that while he and Ng concealed from Goldman compliance officials Low's efforts and the bribes they paid to get the business, other Goldman colleagues were aware of Low's involvement. Leisner named for the jury his own boss at the time, Michael Evans, then Asia chairman, and several other former executives of the bank. He said Evans went with him to visit 1MDB executives after Goldman earned $220 million or 920.06 million ringgit in the first bond transaction known as Magnolia, and that Evans thanked the CEO of 1MDB at the time for using Goldman. He said the CEO responded with, "Don't thank me, thank Joe Low." That was when Evans found out about Low's involvement, Leisner said, adding that his boss had asked him during Magnolia if Low was involved, and he lied outright and said no. He also named Andrea Vella, a former co-head of investment banking in Asia, saying he discussed the bribes and kickbacks with Vella. Bursa Malaysia Chairman Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar says companies that choose to ignore sustainability or environmental, social and governance (ESG) considerations in their business will not be sustainable, as they will be deprived of both equity and debt financing to fund their projects. According to a Bernama report, Abdul Wahid said these companies will have to pay a higher insurance premium to underwrite some of their risks and will have difficulty in recruiting talents to drive their business. He went on to say that these firms will not be able to sell their products or be part of the global supply chain as customers become more discerning in buying only sustainable products in the future. Abdul Wahid said this at the ESG Corporate Summit, themed Driving Sustainability and Sustainable Transformation today. He also noted that Bursa Malaysia, a strong proponent of sustainability, is now collaborating with the Environment and Water Ministry and the Finance Ministry to create a voluntary carbon market. The aim is to assist Malaysia in meeting its climate ambitions while also creating an ecosystem that is transparent, rule-based and meets the needs of intended market participants.